And welcome back to the Filthy Liberal Scum Podcast. I am your host, Justin, the Filthy Liberal Scum Rosario. We have no Murphy with us tonight. We are Murphyless. Murphy's Law has struck. The Murphy is not here.
I caught him on camera not being an atheist a few minutes ago.
And we have here the fat smug bastard, a recovering Catholic. Oh, wait, no, he's still Catholic. He hasn't recovered yet.
Catholic. Pope Francis made me more Catholic. I loves him.
You loves yourself, the Francis?
I loves him.
You know, every time he says something like that people find offensive, they're going to find the clip from Stripes. Lighten up, Francis. If they don't, I will. Just because people should have that. For the next however long he spoke, lighten up, Francis. I should have found that clip and played it.
I'm hoping that he will finally confront the Republicans in America about their
hatred for the poor.
Yes. Instead of just saying it in Rome and expecting the American media to actually report what they say, which the last two popes were actually waiting for the American media to say.
No.
Do you know that Benedict actually came out and said one of the three greatest threats to the world was capitalism?
Did he really?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, you'll never hear that.
Unrestrained capitalism was one of the three greatest threats to the world. Never made it to the American press.
I can't imagine why. How could that be?
How could that be?
I don't know.
Clearly, if you don't agree with Paul Ryan, you're not Catholic.
Anyway, we have a fun show tonight. We had all sorts of great things happen last week. We had CPAC, the Convention of Psychotics. We had the new RNC, RNC's new plan on how to win elections. Not change anything. We have Tony Perkins from the Family Research Council finally come out and absolutely say what we've been saying for years and years and years and years and years. They don't care about abortion at all.
They're angry about sex.
They're angry about sex. And we also have, we're going to take a few moments to make fun of Glenn Greenwald and David Sirota. And if we get to it, Glenn's going to wax poetic about Steubenville, if we get to it. But for now, let's start with CPAC. CPAC is the conservative, blah, 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 blah.
Political Action Conference.
Yada, 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 yada. I don't know. It's a bunch of psychotics that get together and make sure to remind America why the right wing is filled with psychotics.
Now, first of all, I don't know why you're angry about these people. They perform a very important service to America.
I'm not angry about them.
They marginalize any candidate who could possibly win so that we win.
Yeah. And that's exactly what they did. This is, mind you, this is, what, 5 months after they got 4 months after they got a shellacking in November, okay? And they got a shellacking because they were far-right extremists and, forcible rape this and gay, we hate you that, and, blah, people this, on and on and on and on. And it cost them badly, very badly. And yet here we are, just, 4 short months later, and they're saying exactly the same thing over and over and over.
The American people ditched them at the polls, but CPAC has taught us a very important thing. It takes a ditching and it keeps on bitching.
Yep, pretty much. They ignored anyone that's remotely moderate. They didn't have Chris Christie there because he's tainted with the stain of Obama.
He's tainted with the stain of electability. No,
yeah, exactly.
Electability.
But yet they had Palin, who has she's reached a new level of has-been. She's not just a has-been. She's not even a was anymore. It was just like, who? What? When? I don't know. Her 15 minutes came, went, got a facelift, came back, went again. Just no one cares anymore what Sarah Palin has to say.
She's such a great symbol for them.
Yeah, pretty much. All shallow. All shallow. I mean, she showed up with a 64-ounce big gulp because she felt the need to point out that she's, I don't know, against healthcare.
I think that's a good move.
What?
I think the big gulp thing is a big move. Most people don't like the Bloomberg law. Most people resent it. Most people do feel that it's an infringement.
No, but this is just a continuation of her thing with Michelle Obama, and it's like, I bought chocolate chip cookies for everybody because we don't want you eating healthy. Now, of course, her point was that big government can't tell you anything about your health. No, no one should get in the way of telling you what to do with your health. Healthcare is your decision whatsoever, unless, of course, you're a woman. and you want birth control pills or an abortion.
If you're Sarah Palin, though, and you can tie Mike Bloomberg as a big rock around Michelle Obama's neck, why not? Why not do it? That's what, I mean, it's a good strategy because that's the kind of thing that will convince the average American to vote against their best interests. Is you take a thing like that that the average person is really cheesed off about, and they will forget all of the other things that.
But they were only really cheesed off in New York because no one else cared. I mean, that was a real local politics sort of thing. That wasn't even New York State. That was New York City.
I don't know what you're talking about. If you did, people everywhere have been talking about this.
Yes, but it doesn't.
People. In fact, one of the things that when I was looking at an article on New York Times. Somebody in the New York Times comments actually complained. They said, why is it that all these people from all these other places are commenting about this, that they're so enraged by it? It has nothing to do with them.
Well, the soda company had to pay a lot of people to make sure it got a lot of attention, because if it worked in New York, it might work in other places. And that would be bad for business.
I think that what Mike Bloomberg did with the soda is a classic example of the wrong kind of liberalism. Because the last thing you want to do, the bad guy is the corporate entity that's trying to take away choice, right? When they are trying to create an addictive product, they're trying to take away choice. You want to be the champion of the consumer. What you don't want to do is, you don't want to tell the consumer, I'm going to make decisions for you. And then really arbitrary, crazy, bad decisions like, you can't have a soda that's more than 16 ounces, but you can have a shake that has like 30 times as many calories.
Yeah, it wasn't terribly well thought out. We're not really sure what he was trying to do there.
It also showed a white disconnect, because there were a lot of black people and a lot of poor people who said, "Hey, I buy a soda for me and my kids because that's all I can afford. And, if I can't buy the big soda, I can't share the soda with my kids.
And I can't buy two little ones because it would cost more than the one big
one." I think if I were Mike Bloomberg, what I would have done is I would say, anytime you want to create a liberal reform, and you have an issue like this, what you always want to do is create more choices. Fuck the corporate oppressor, and create more choices. So one thing I would say to the fast food companies is, for every single flavor of regular soda you have, you must have a diet flavor. You must have reduced sugar versions that have a normal amount of sugar in them, so that people can choose what they want. The other thing I would say is, what is it you put in your soda? Oh yeah, that's right. You have the cheapest, best supply of quality water in the world. So here's what you're going to do as a price of doing business. When somebody tells you they want water with their Big Mac, you're not going to hand them a thimble full of water. Because you have access to the city's water, you in turn will give the people access to their water. And if somebody wants a 64-ounce water with their soda, if they want a 64-ounce soda with their sandwich, you will give that to them for free because you're getting discounted water from the city. That's what I would have done to them.
Hit them in the wallet.
Give people choices. Give the consumers more choices. One of the things, people are drinking soda because they're thirsty and they can't get water in a cup that's bigger than this.
Yeah, that's true. They always put a little thing. If anything, charge like what? Do 10 cents it costs for the cup? Because the cup doesn't really cost anything.
I don't charge for the cup.
No, I'm like, if you're going to give me a 64-ounce cup, fine. Here, 10 cents. Now give me the cup.
If the fast food companies want to charge for the cup, then I'm going to charge market rates for the water that comes out of the tap. You can pay Evian prices for the water that goes into your soda. No, you get the water you get out of that. The water you use in your business,
we're getting sidetracked.
Is subsidized.
Back to CPAC.
You got to pay it back.
Back to CPAC. Aside from Palin going out there with her soda, which I got to say, I don't know what she was thinking with the soda. If she just had the soda up there, that would have been fine. She drank from the soda from a straw. If you've ever really paid attention to someone when they're drinking from a straw makes you look like an idiot. It really, really does. Everyone does it, so no one really pays attention to it. But next time you have a soda, or next time have your friend, have them drink it in slow motion and watch their face. It looks very silly. So when you have a whole bunch of people sitting there with high-resolution cameras taking snapshots, you end up with really stupid pictures.
And as soon as you say that, they will say, see those liberal East Coast elitists? We're common people. We drink from the straw like Sarah Palin. It's brilliant.
No.
It's brilliant. They identify with her.
Have you seen the pictures? She looks like an imbecile.
But they like that.
No, she looks like a, she doesn't look like a, hey, she looks like a, like she literally has a, face. No, because they wouldn't eat it up if it was Obama.
No, because he's
nobody looks.
He's a Kenyan Muslim.
Everybody looks silly when they're drinking from a straw.
He's a Kenyan Muslim, and they all know that he really would rather have Grey Poupon on his.
The pictures they got of her drinking from the straw, she looks absolutely imbecilic. But anyone looks like that when you drink from a straw. The biggest, toughest guy with tattoos and bulging muscles looks like an idiot when he drinks from a straw if you actually watch them, which is why no one watches them.
Tell you, we'll go out 5-5. 5 conservatives ask him about it. They're all going to say, "She's one of us. You brie cheese eating."
No, they're gonna look at that. It's not. They're gonna look at the expression on her face. They're gonna be like, "Damn, she looks like an idiot." So, but that was a rambling, pointless speech. Ann Coulter went out there. She went on and blah blah blah.
It was such a sore loser speech because she's still saying, "Oh, we should have given Obama a background check." Hey, guess what, silly person? You lost in 2008, and even though you spoke for Mitt Romney all the time and you said we should elect him, you lost again. The American people don't agree with you. You're a loser. You're a sore loser.
And a half-term governor.
A quitter and a sore loser.
You know, Karl Rove took a couple of pot shots at her. He's not too thrilled with her because she just won't shut up, and she's making his job harder.
I hope she wins.
Yeah.
I hope the Republican Party says, yeah, that Karl Rove keeps trying to get us to pick electable candidates. We hate him. Good.
Trump went out there to an empty room, which was funny in and of itself, and gave like this bizarre rambling speech that was really kind of matched up with Clint Eastwood for the amount of like
so many things have been said to empty chairs by this party lately.
Yeah, exactly. And now one of the stories that they're telling themselves is that, well, it was the first presentation in the morning. It was very early. That's why no one was there. And as someone who's gone to a number of conventions in other states, including Las Vegas, I've been to several conventions in Las Vegas, and you don't go to sleep when you're in Las Vegas. And I'm not a person who's really good at not going without sleep. We were just actually discussing this. But the first presentation in the morning was a big presentation. Everybody was there. 5,000 plus managers. We all showed up because we wanted to see what was going on in that first. The fact that no one showed up for Trump is because nobody cares.
Donald Trump doesn't have great conservative credentials. I think there are a lot of people who don't wonder if he isn't a false flag operation.
I don't know. He was banging that Bertha drum really hard, and they ate it up. Then again, they are stupid.
Right, but a lot of people were like Karl Rove was saying, "Oh, Obama's been prolonging this because he wants to make us look stupid." Well, it's your fault for being stupid, but you know, I mean, there is something to be said for Trump does more to hurt them every time he opens his mouth.
Which would be very funny if it turned out that was the case. Like a couple of years from now, he's just like, "Yeah, I was playing about all that."
There are some people I wonder about all the time. Fred Phelps also. Every once in a while I look at Fred Phelps and I'm like, you're a false flag operation, aren't you?
Yeah, no, there's supposed to be rumors now that the founder of the church was gay. It's like,
yeah, but not like happy being gay, like because he had a homosexual experience in his youth. It soured him on all gay people.
Anyway, CPAC was full of lots of gibberish. One of their big heroes, what's his name? Matt Crowder. Matt Crowder is one of Fox News' contributors. This is my favorite part. He's from Canada, and he goes on and on and on about how terrible socialized medicine is, which I think is really hysterical. And of course, basically, it's just the same thing that you usually get from conservatives. It was good for me. It's not so good for you. He was the guy that during the union busting a couple of months ago in not Wisconsin. Michigan, yes. He got into a fist fight with one of the union protesters, and Fox was all over it. It's like, oh my God, union thugs! But the funny thing was, when they first showed the clip, they showed the unedited clip where you can clearly see Crowder tripped a guy, and the guy fell down and got back up and then punched him in the face. Now, it's pretty clear from the video Crowder didn't intentionally trip him, but at the same time, Crowder had been out there for hours smiling and making fun of the union protesters in order to get a rise out of him. He was deliberately looking to provoke something. He didn't trip the guy on purpose, but he certainly wasn't upset that he tripped the guy. And when the guy punched him in the face, he got that look on his face like, I got what I wanted, and then he left. It was like he was out there playing a part. But so he gets up on the stage at CPAC, and he starts going on and on about Ashley Judd running in Kentucky. And he starts making rape jokes.
I had not caught this at all.
And he keeps making rape jokes and rape jokes, rape jokes, rape jokes. Now, what I was not aware of is that Ashley Judd's been raped 3 times. I have to look into how she managed to pull that off, because that's a whole lot. I can't imagine this is after she became famous, because at that point she'd have to have money to have a freaking bodyguard. But the fact that she was raped 3 times, apparently he knew about it, because he was going on and on and on about rape. And then someone actually came up behind him, whispered in his ear, and more or less, I really have to find a good lip reader. But I can imagine it was something to the effect of, shut the fuck up. Because he just stopped the rape jokes right there. And he had to go on to different material. But this is what CPAC is for. CPAC is for having conservatives come out and show us exactly who they are. And that's what I love about CPAC. It's like the finest distillation of what the right wing really means, because they only invite the people who are really right wing. And these are the people that control the movement. And the movement is controlled by lunatics. And they come out every year and make sure everyone knows it. Which
it is really disturbing that when that when you get down to it, conservatives think rape is funny.
Yeah.
Like they think rape is fine. They always have no problem with it.
And this is one of those things I keep trying to point out to people when they start saying, "Oh, extreme liberals and extreme conservatives, they're just the same.
Just the same.
They're just the same." And I point out to them, it's like, while rape culture is not a left-right thing, because you have liberals who are fully engaged in rape culture, whether they realize it or not. I actually have one on my page right now who's going on and on and on about how women this and women that. He doesn't see that he's really feeding into the mythology of women are lesser, therefore. And that's all part of rape culture. In general, besides just misogyny, it's also part of the rape culture. But
in the late 60s, one of the big the whole literary criticism movement in feminism was about all of these liberal men who they were writing these books about their own about their own feelings of being oppressed by sexual norms and mores, and several feminists started writing books about how misogynist they were and how they the women in their books were mistreated, and that was really a lot of ways the birth of the feminist movement in the 60s. Like that part of the feminist movement had a lot to do with, honestly, a reaction against that side of liberal men,
which makes perfect sense. But here you have liberals and conservatives, right? Both of them. It's really not really more than one or the other. Although the left seems to be a little bit more aware of it than the right, but they're still, it's not really a left-right thing. However, conservatives are the ones that are trying to codify it. They want to make rape culture legal, like as part of the legal code. They want to make sure that when you rape a woman, unless she's bleeding and you had to beat her up, well, it wasn't really rape. It was a kind of rape. It wasn't legitimate rape. This is the language that conservatives use. You don't find that on the liberal side. You don't find anything similar to that on the liberal side. There is no equivalence to that on the liberal side. Even people who are fully engaged in rape culture do not go out and try to pass laws to say, well, if you only violated her in the ass, it's not really rape. This is what you get from conservatives. You don't get that from liberals. So even on the issue of rape culture, conservatives are still absolutely fucking insane. And that's just the way it is.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to say liberals are just as bad in the opposite direction, where are all the women saying it's okay to rape men, or something like that, right? You don't see anything.
There's no flip side to it. I mean, I do come across women who don't acknowledge that men can be raped or that men can be in abusive relationships. But even that isn't really a left-right thing.
Well, the more thing is, it's nowhere near the same degree.
And they certainly aren't trying to codify it.
it's there's nowhere near the same degree. Like you're talking about this versus that. Like
well, yeah, that too. I mean,
like where are the where are the liberals who are saying that it's okay, it's okay to restrict white voting rights, like
exactly,
or having schemes to restrict white voting rights. Like where is that? You don't see that anyplace.
So false equivalency, you gotta love it. Is there anything else you want to say about CPAC before we move on?
I think we should talk about the guy who thought slavery was just fine for a second.
Yes, what was it? Terry Scott? Scott Terry?
Scott Terry.
Scott Terry. Scott Terry was in it was a smaller group. It was not a demonstration.
It was a panel,
presentation.
It was a panel on how to explain to people that you're not a racist if you're a Republican.
Yes, and it was being run by a black guy. And the black guy was telling them, it's like racism isn't, it's not always about racism, this, that, and the other. And he had said, and because they started talking about Frederick Douglass, and he said years after Frederick Douglass, got his freedom, he wrote to his previous master, said, "I forgive you for all the terrible things that you've done to me." And this schmuck said, "You mean like provide food and shelter?"
Providing food and shelter?
As if, slavery wasn't that bad. And now this is a recurring theme.
And then he said, why can't we be Booker T. Washington Republicans, where we're unified like a hand, but separate like the fingers? Specifically saying that he wanted segregation. Saying, segregation is good. Why can't we have segregation?
And honestly, if this guy does not end up on Fox News this week, I will be absolutely shocked.
I have no problem with segregation as long as you segregate me from the people who want segregation. If you segregate me from the people who want racial segregation and I can be with the people who want diversity, I'm okay with that kind of segregation.
Well, they're working on that. That's what militia compounds are for.
I thought that's what the Mason-Dixon line was for, but
no. But no, I mean, and this is what we're talking about. This is what conservatives really think.
Well, the thing I found funny about the whole Scott Terry thing was that the overt, crazed racism of Scott Terry was so focused on, and all the other things that were happening in the background. So first of all, if you looked at that audience was frigging hilarious because everybody in that audience, except for the speaker, was white that I could see in the video. Now, maybe there was a woman who supposedly was a reporter from the Voice of Russia. Don't ask me how that is, but she was a black woman. And I think she was the only other black person in the room, from what I understand. She was definitely the only black woman in the room because somebody pointed that out. Because she kept trying to debate the guy who was running the forum. And all the Republicans in the room were like, oh, boo, we don't want to hear you, we want to hear him. And then somebody actually said, but she's the only black woman in the room. Maybe we should listen to her opinion.
Well, and I mean, that's like conservatives when they want to hear opinions about women's health issues, have a whole bunch of old white guys, because who knows better?
Well, the speaker, first of all, I don't understand it's a panel, because as far as I can see, there was only one speaker, and he was black. One guy, one speaker.
That we could see.
It didn't look like a panel to me. I didn't see any reporting about this. God bless you. Anybody else on the panel. But the other thing, so you have this black guy speaking to a whole bunch of white people. And his whole thing about the shield they should hold up anytime they're accused of racism. He never questions, is it possible you might say something? He doesn't really care if you're racist or not. But the shield you hold up if somebody accused you of being racist is that you're a Frederick Douglass Republican. Now, the interesting thing about this is he's instructing these people to say this as if this is what made them Republicans. Like they have a picture of Frederick Douglass up in their house, and they've read anything that Frederick Douglass has written, and he is the sole inspiration for them being Republicans. No, that's a lie. It's bullshit. It's something you say when you know you're a racist, but you just want to say, oh, look, a black guy.
Well, it's an updated version of My Best Friends Are Black. Some of my best friends are black. Some of my biggest inspirations are black people.
Here's a black guy I don't really agree with about anything, but if I say his name and you're not quite sure what I mean by it, I have magically robbed you of your ability to call me a racist.
Even as I say racist things.
Even as I say things that they'd equate to racism.
And this segues quite nicely into our next section, which is the RNC's new plan.
One more point I wanted to make about it.
What's up?
One more point I wanted to make about it is if you the big thing that's racist about the whole lot of them, and this is the big thing everybody watching should pay attention to. This is the thing you should always say when you're talking to Republicans. 93% of Black Americans voted for Barack Obama
because he gave them free stuff.
Well,
like Obama.
Okay, so the first thing is, if you really believe 93% of Black Americans are on welfare, you're a racist because it's not true. So if you really...
He's playing the race card.
Sorry, that makes you a racist. If you believe something that is denigrating and not true about a group of people based on the color of their skin, you're a racist. But even if you don't believe that 93% of Black Americans are on welfare, if you believe what they constantly say, which is the Republicans are really good for Black Americans because they promote the family and they promote working and they promote pulling yourself up. So what you're really saying is Black Americans need white people to tell them what's good for them because they're not smart enough to figure it out on their own. Any answer you have that's different than 93% of Black Americans voted in their best interests and understand what they were voting for is a racist argument because you're saying 93% of Black Americans don't know what's good for Black Americans. Sorry, any way you cut that, that's racist. There is no non-racist way to say that. If you really believe 93% of Black Americans voted not in their best interest, I'm sorry, yes, you're a racist. It's a racist argument no matter how you cut it.
But they were tricked by all the free stuff.
Go read Take Up the White Man's Burden. That's the message of the Republican Party right now.
The white man's burden, but don't carry it too far. You wouldn't want them to catch up.
Exactly.
That's the white man's burden for as far as the conservatives are concerned. But as I was saying, this does segue into the RNC's new plan on how to win elections. Their plan for winning elections is tokenism and lie through your teeth.
They've never tried that before.
I know, it's amazing. You know, they released their plan and this morning actually, and it was chock full of wonderful, wonderful things. Like you know, and it starts off, and this is the sad part about it is the people running the committee, the Growth and Opportunity Project, so desperately want to tell Republicans to either A, stop being racist, misogynistic, homophobic douchebags, or B, at least pretend you're not a racist, misogynistic, homophobic douchebag. You know, it's one or the other. You can't just keep going out there and keep saying how much you hate black people and how much you hate Latinos and how much you hate the fags and how much you hate women. Blah, 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 blah. You can't keep doing that because you won't win.
It's like Joe Biden said during the last election. They've always believed these things, but now they're saying it out loud.
Exactly.
You know, like,
you know, and that's what makes it so much fun to be a liberal right now. I mean, granted, I've only been really paying attention to this stuff for 5 years, and I've only really been writing about it for 3 years.
A little longer than 5 years.
2008.
No, you started to be a liberal. There were a few years in Bush's term before you.
No, I was always a liberal. I wasn't politically active.
You might not have been writing about it, but you started to get political during George Bush's term.
Yeah, before Obama got elected in 2008, early 2008.
A little bit before that. A little bit before that.
I have a terrible memory, so I'll go with that. But you know, the fact that she made me lose my train of thought now. Where was I? I don't remember. I don't know. What was I talking about?
Yes, their brand new packaging.
Yes, their brand new packaging. Polishing a turd, which is physically possible, according to the Mythbusters. They did do it on Mythbusters.
Oh my God, why?
To see if you can do it.
No.
They said you can't polish a turd, so they polished one.
We don't need to know that.
It's a great show. Anyway.
Do not need to know that.
But no, the recommendations where we have to be more inclusive, we have to do more outreach, we have to really pay attention to their issues, but that's not going to happen. Okay, what they really went for was a lot of tokenism. You know, we have to find, you know, good surrogates to go out there and represent us.
But their whole thing is if we provide the same implicitly racist message,
but delivered by someone to the right color.
We have a black person present it, like Herman Cain, or what's his name? I always forget his name.
Michael Steele.
Actually, Michael Steele's not that bad.
He wasn't there that bad.
No, the real lunatic, the one who ran against Obama.
Alan West.
No, Alan West is another good example. That's true. Alan West has come out basically and said racist things like all black people are stupid except for him.
Yeah.
But Alan Keyes.
Oh God, yes.
Alan Keyes, like people like that. As long as we have people like that deliver our message, black people will be so stupid that they'll just, because honestly, Republicans believe black people just vote for Obama because he's the black guy.
Yep.
Like they're that stupid. Like,
and they really think that Marco Rubio will just pull the Latino vote.
All the Spanish people will vote for him because he's Latino.
And it's really just I only got through the first quarter of the report, having to deal with the various groups that they've offended and how not to continue offending them, and it was really tortured logic.
They still don't understand why Linda McMahon did so badly among women in Connecticut. Yeah. Like they don't get it. No, I don't. She's a woman. Women are stupid. They should just vote for the woman.
Exactly. One of the things they wrote is like, our standard should not be universal purity. It should be a more welcoming conservatism. Good luck with that. It's never going to happen. Let's see. Oh, my personal favorite. The perception revealed in polling that the GOP does not care about people is doing great harm to the party and its candidates on a federal level, especially in presidential years. It is a major deficiency that must be addressed, which is true. But one of the contributors to this problem is that while Democrats tend to talk about people, Republicans tend to talk about policy. This is the party that cannot stop talking about abortion, rape, gay marriage, illegal immigrants, and welfare and food stamps. They don't talk policy. They only talk about social issues, and that's people.
No, they talk about people all the time. The problem is they talk about people they don't like. They talk about all the people who aren't real Americans.
Exactly.
And then those people go and vote, and they're always surprised who they voted for.
Who knew?
They were offended by that? How could that be?
And even worse is like, okay, when they do talk about policy, they don't actually say anything. They don't tell you what their policies are going to be. Like, I had written, they want cuts. Well, what cuts do you want? Well, we can't tell you that. Why not? Well, you have to tell us what cuts you're going to do because we want cuts. It's like, why would I do that? I'll get reamed in the public square if I make all these cuts by myself.
I think to some extent that's the fault of Democrats who should say, Democrats should say, look, you're the ones who say you want the cuts. You're the ones who say the American people want the cuts. So you decide what you lay out what cuts you want and you carry the water for the cuts. Democrats should overtly say, this is a compromise we are making with you. Spending cuts are a compromise we are making with you. We are doing this to make you happy, so they have to be cuts you want. You have to say what they are, and then you have to go out to the American people and be responsible for it. Not us, because we don't want them.
Well, and that's we've started getting in that area because Obama has stopped not debating. He stopped negotiating with himself. He stopped doing that, and the Republicans got really upset when he stopped doing it because they got used to him compromising, and then they would say, well, we need a little more from you, but we'll think about it. And then they would slam him for even suggesting what they wanted in the first place. But then he stopped doing that, and they got like, oh, what do you mean you're not going to make the cuts for us? You're not going to do all the work for us? You want us to go out there and put our fingerprints on it? What the hell? That's not negotiating. You're just not being serious now.
And I know I've said this before, but this is yet another week that's gone by where Barack Obama has not said the simplest thing that he needs to say, which is, all I'm doing is fulfilling Mitt Romney and John Boehner's campaign promise.
Well, a couple of weeks ago,
they said they wanted to take out the loopholes. Okay, I'm fulfilling your campaign promise. This is the promise you made to the American people. I'm fulfilling it. You should be on my side. And he should constantly say, this is your campaign promise. Step up.
Yeah, apparently we're just all going to pretend the sequester never happened. And next month and the month after, when the sequester actually starts hurting the economy, assuming it does, which I'm assuming it will, because people are going to be out of work all over the place. They're going to be on furloughs, and that's money coming out of the economy. I'm fully expecting the Republicans to start squealing like stuck pigs about how, damn it, Obama messed up the economy. Look at this recovery. It's going in reverse now. Obama's to blame.
I was not a fan of the sequester when they first did it. I think one of the big problems that's happening with the sequester is that sadly there are a lot of stupid people out there, and these stupid people don't see that cutting services for the poor and homeless are going to hurt them. And there's a lot of people who are like, if it cuts down on my taxes, fuck the poor and homeless. As long as you don't put it on, stick it in my face so I have to see it happening, I don't care.
Well, on top of that, there's also a lot of people who somehow seem to have forgotten this is what the Republicans wanted, and this is what they bragged about. You know, I mean, I see it all over Facebook, but, you know, conservatives completely, like, they'll read it, and it'll literally just go and fall out of their ears after it goes through their eyes. Paul Ryan bragged about how they got the sequester when they did it back in 2011. John Boehner just bragged about how they got what they wanted in 2011.
I got
98% of what I wanted. You know, but now here we are. It's like, oh, we don't want the sequester, but we're not going to do anything to make sure it doesn't happen. We could have easily made it not happen, but we didn't want to because they really do want the cuts because it'll hurt the economy, and they got what they wanted. And now, when it starts hurting the economy, they're going to turn around and blame it on Obama and say, well, you're hurting the economy, blah, 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 blah. Now, what I think is hilarious is that the way they want to remove those cuts is by putting other cuts in place, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If you're going to yank money out of the economy in one place, it's still going to come out of the economy.
It's the same thing the Republicans always say, which is we should compromise by doing everything I want, even though the American people don't want it.
And if I get what I want, I'm going to want more because what I wanted, well, that was just the beginning of
and
what
not enough Democrats are making fun of them for being sore losers and saying, you lost the presidential election. You lost.
And yet here we are. You're doing the doubling down on exactly the same thing that you just lost.
You're at war with the American people. The Democrats should constantly accuse them of being at war with the American people.
Well, I'm waiting to see if they really pick up on the Ryan budget because it doesn't seem they're really pushing it very hard. But we'll see what next year's election looks like. That should be a campaign issue. Like every person that signs on to that budget should have it hung around their neck again next year.
The thing that worries me about the 2014 election and the thing that makes the Republicans smart in what they're doing is that one of the bad things about the American people is
short memories.
They'll vote for something, and then the Republicans, like, they'll vote for something Democrats want, and then Republicans will block it the entire time, and then what the average American person is going to say in 2014 is, well, we voted for Obama 2 years ago, and he didn't do all those things.
Oh, God, Jesus, yes.
And that's what they're going to say. And then they're going to vote for Republicans, even though the things that they're complaining about that didn't get done,
oh my God,
are things that the Republicans caused not to happen. The average person is not going to say, "Oh, well, maybe I should get rid of more Republicans."
If a week goes by where I don't have a liberal on my page complaining about how Obama did not fulfill all of his campaign promises, I swear to God, it would be like Armageddon. It would obviously be a sign of the end time. Every fucking week.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about liberals. I'm talking about the middle of the road people. The people.
Yeah, but the fact that liberals do it means it's definitely happening in the middle of the road. I mean, the conservatives all say it anyway, no matter what. He could fulfill every single campaign promise, and they would still be like, well, blah, 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 blah. They'll find something to complain about. But the fact that liberals actually say this, it's like, oh, he didn't. He broke all his campaign promises. Like, no, he broke about maybe a third of them, which is a pretty fucking good track record for a president.
Well, first of all, nobody before Obama was actually tracked in terms of, like, literally, here is every single campaign promise you made, and here's whether or not you are fulfilling it. No other president before ever had that. Because that's online now. The Obameter is online. He is being rated for every single campaign promise. Never been done before. There is no other president you can compare him to. And if you started to go back in time and start taking audio tracks of all those presidents, I guarantee nobody would have Obama's track record, because Obama, you know that somebody in the White House is looking at that Obameter every day and going, okay, how can we improve our score on this thing?
People are actually looking at it.
Yeah.
Not that I trust PolitiFact, but still. For that, I'll go with it. For the Obama meter, I'll let it go.
PolitiFact has some good things about them. They just do some stupid things in the interest of looking impartial.
Snort. Speaking of impartial, The View from Nowheres is how it's been referred to by Bob Seska and Ches Pazienza, my favorite podcast. Glenn Greenwald and David Sirota are two firebaggers. Okay, firebaggers are liberals who hate Obama and everything about him. Okay, they hate Obama so much that they will happily join with conservatives in order to bring him down.
Now you say this is based on Fire Dog Lake?
Yes, James Hampshire.
Because I've been trying to look at Fire Dog Lake occasionally and see this in Fire Dog Lake, and I haven't seen it yet. But it's only I've only been casually looking at them for like a week or two now. But they don't seem to be like, yes, don't go and vote, let the Republicans win. Like I haven't seen that.
Its origins came from when James Hampshire was so adamantly opposed to the Obamacare, the Affordable Health Care Act, that she literally got together with what group was it? I don't know, some group on the right to oppose the healthcare bill.
Okay, that's just stupid.
Exactly. That's when the term fire.
I will come every week. You'll hear me criticize Obama every single week, but you will never hear me say I'm not going to vote for him because I'll vote for him every single. Because you always vote the better of two evils. That's just, you obviously don't vote for the person who's going to run in the opposite direction of what you want.
Exactly. Even if they're only running in a tangent to what you want, it's still in your direction. Even if it doesn't.
It's still closer to where you want to be than the other guy, that's for sure.
But that was the problem. She was so adamantly opposed that, and it reflected on her site. And, they was like, oh, Obama's terrible. Obama this. Obama's horrible. Blah, blah, blah. Everything he does is terrible, terrible, terrible. And it was like, yeah, but and it got to the point where they were just overlooking anything good he did because they didn't like some of the stuff he did.
Yes, it's sad that we can choose between moderates and the far right, and we don't have any left-wing candidates we can pick. That's sad. But you better goddamn pick the moderates, because otherwise you get the far right.
And that's where Glenn Greenwald and Dave Sirota come in. Now, their entire professional existence right now is Obama bashing, because there's an audience for it. There's an audience for Obama bashing. Conservatives lap it up because anytime a so-called liberal says something bad about Obama, to them it just confirms everything that they said about him. Even when it comes to drones, which the right loves because it's blowing up brown people. So they really love it, but they still like hearing bad things about Obama. And these guys go on and on and on and on about how awful Obama is and how his civil rights is terrible and blah, blah, blah. And he's awful, 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 awful. And nothing he does is ever good because, drones. And that's it, just because of drones. And the NDAA and blah, blah, blah. He's a tyrant, yada, yada, yada.
I agreed with Rand Paul on the filibuster. I liked the fact that he did an actual filibuster. I agreed with the point that he was making that we have to have a line, and we can't have the president hiding behind lawyers on being allowed to do X, Y, and Z without having it defined, what he's allowed to do, what he's not allowed to do. I agree with Rand Paul about, it's not the president today that's the issue. It's the fact that you're going to create this executive power to just execute anybody you like in the country. I agree with Rand Paul about all those things. Does that mean I would ever vote for Rand Paul over Obama? Hell no!
But and it's not that they're saying you should vote for Rand Paul, but it's like, oh, Rand Paul's awesome, Rand Paul's great. And if you point out, it's like, yeah, Rand Paul's got a lot of fucked up beliefs. Just because he happens to be right on this one particular issue, don't put him up on a pedestal.
We said it last week. A stop clock is right twice a day.
Exactly. And, Glenn Greenwald and Dave Sirota really started going off on people. It's like, oh, drones, drones, drones. And what Chaz Pazienza had pointed out, Pazienza, totally mispronounced his name. Not that he'll watch this, but still. What he pointed out was that here you have two guys who were saying, stand with Rand, 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 even though he's got all these things that he's terrible about. But Obama does this one thing that they don't like, and everything's tainted because of it. And what made it even more ironic, or just really fucking annoying, is that they complain about Obama and his civil rights track record, and the drones are evil, civil rights are. But Rand Paul is on record opposing the Civil Rights Act, and he's on record signing on for fetal personhood bills, which would completely remove a woman's right to control her health care.
Well, it's very hilarious that he's on record for a lot of things that certainly don't sound libertarian to me.
Yeah, that too.
The things libertarians always pretend that they're in favor of, although they never vote for
some reason.
Libertarians will always vote for the social conservative over the Democrat, even though they say, oh, we're right in the middle. No, you're not.
Libertarians are full of shit.
Yeah.
But so here you go. Here you have a guy who's on record trying to pass these excruciatingly awful, civil rights violations. He would prefer that black people be segregated. Businesses should be allowed to kick out black people, and women shouldn't be allowed to get birth control pills because it might endanger a fetus that may or not exist. But meanwhile, that's okay because he's against drones. Obama has a fantastic record when it comes to certain types of civil rights. But since he's he's obviously
Obama
drones.
has a fantastic record on most of everything except possibly drones.
But since it's that one thing, Obama has to burn in hell, and he's awful terrible. So there's this fantastic double standard here.
It's not even that Obama is wrong about anything, really. It's that he's a wussy on some things. It's that it's that he doesn't stand up to the right. He doesn't stand up to the right wing on drones, and he doesn't stand up to the right wing on Guantanamo Bay. And he doesn't stand up to the right wing on a lot of these things. About trials in America being a good idea.
Well, he did bring in Bin Laden's.
Yeah.
But that was a big deal only because he brought him in and just did it. He didn't tell anybody. He just said, boom, done. And now we can look back, and now next time they catch someone that's a big, high-profile person, he can point to him and say, wasn't a problem for this guy.
It would be nice to see a Democratic president once in a while say, I am the president of the United States, clothed in immense power!
Yeah, but that's what they imagine he says anyway. He's the worst tyrant ever, and he's taken away all your civil liberties, except no one can tell you what civil liberties he's taken away.
If you're going to make me pay for the hot dog, I'm going to take it out of the cart. And I'm going to stick it in my mouth.
And speaking of sticking things in your mouth, Tony Perkins, head of the Family Research Council, famously anti-gay and famously anti-contraception.
Keeps telling me what I can stick in my mouth.
Exactly. Glenn represents everything that Tony Perkins hates. I represent everything Tony Perkins hates because I got another woman pregnant. Granted, we didn't have sex doing it. It was through a squirt, and I wasn't there in the room when they did it.
You should have.
But still, I would have. I would have happily held the syringe.
Natural way.
Nah, I would have been fine with the syringe, just so I could make fun of her while I was doing it. It's like, ew, you should see how this looks on the inside. Ew! Anyway, we've been saying for some time on this show, and in my writing, and sometime before that, liberals have been saying it for way longer than I've been paying attention to politics, that the really anti-abortion people...
What is the definition of a Puritan? It's someone who sits up all night, unable to sleep, in the desperate fear that somebody someplace is having a good time.
This is true. This is why they oppose alcohol and drugs and sex and everything that makes life worth living.
If I'm not having sex, why are you having sex?
So they've been arguing for years that abortion's evil, and what we found out last year, and even in 2011, is that they're not so interested in abortion as in stopping women from having sex by taking away their contraceptives. And then they started with the whole religious liberty thing, as well as, we have to protect the fetus. And it was, Glenn explained it to me at one point that what they really had a problem with was sex. And he explained to me what to look for. And
I said the actual quote was, it's not Roe, it's Griswold
v. Connecticut.
And you were like, what's Griswold? And I said, Griswold versus Connecticut.
That's the one that allowed people to have condoms and contraceptives. So I started paying more attention to anti-abortion people.
And what their language was.
Right.
What are they really saying?
And I started prodding them to get to the root of what it is they actually had a problem with. And it really isn't that hard to get to, as long as you don't let them know that's what you're getting to. Because if they understand what it is that you're trying to get them to say, they won't say it just because they know that's what you're looking for. But when you challenge them, it's like, well, okay, if you're against abortion, then you should support anything that reduces abortion.
You support sex education, you should support contraception big time.
Right.
Because those will decrease abortion.
You free contraceptives to anyone who wants it for free, period, universal. Just make sure, because the more women that have contraceptives, the less chances they'll have an unintended pregnancy, and that is what causes abortions, really, is what it comes down to. And the same thing with sex ed. If women know how to use their contraceptives, they're less likely to get pregnant, thus no abortions. And the ones who actually do care about abortion will say, yes, we should absolutely have that. Most of them, however, when you press them on this point, will say, no, we shouldn't be teaching kids about sex. That's the parents' job. It's like, okay, but when the parents don't do it, someone has to step in. Otherwise, you end up with unintended pregnancies, and then you get abortions. Well, and they'll just keep saying the same thing over and over, and it's like, no. Doesn't matter what you think about that. The reality is, teens have sex. Unmarried people have sex. If you make sure they all have contraceptives and you teach them how to use it, you won't have abortions. And they will fight tooth and nail against this. And if you push them on it, it's like, I don't understand what the problem is. Why would you be against that? You will, for the ones who actually don't give a shit about abortion, you will find that what they really, really care about is people having sex.
Yeah.
They don't want people having sex. Especially, and this is the sad part, they don't want married couples to have contraceptives.
Which is weird.
Right. It's like they're married. They're supposed to be having sex. But they don't want kids yet. They're too young. You know, they're 21. They're married. They don't have the money to have kids. And they still don't want them to have those condoms and contraceptives. Well, they don't say condoms. They never really fight against condoms. Like, if they were to get rid of contraceptives...
No, they say things like that. They'll say, oh, condoms aren't really safe. And
oh, yeah, that's true. They say it's ineffective.
They always try to come up with things to criticize condoms.
I mean, honestly, if they manage to get female contraceptives legally banned, they would go after condoms next. Because anything that allows you to have sex while reducing or removing the risk of having a kid, they're not interested in.
They'll try and lie and say the pill causes cancer and all this other stuff. And...
So, Tony Perkins came out and gleefully shared the following with us.
The court decided that single people had the right to contraceptives.
You haven't heard this yet, right?
What's that got to do with marriage? Well, everything. Because what the Supreme Court essentially said is single people have the right to engage in sexual intercourse. Well, societies have always done that. There were laws against it. Now, sure, single people are inclined to push the fences and jump over them, particularly if they're in love with each other and going on to marriage, but they always knew they were doing wrong.
So, sex outside of marriage is wrong.
In this case, the Supreme Court said, take those fences away, they can do whatever they like. And they didn't address at all what status children had, what status the commons had. By commons, I mean the rest of the United States. Have they got any standing in this case?
Why would they?
Now, what he's saying there, now mind you, conservatives love this guy. The party of freedom and personal responsibility, and don't get your government out of my Medicare, and don't you tell me what to do, and don't you tell me how to drink my soda. They should be able to tell you that you're not allowed to have sex.
But they do.
Let's continue.
They just said, no, singles have the right to contraceptive, which means singles have the right to sex outside of marriage. Brushing aside millennia, thousands and thousands of years of wisdom.
The same wisdom that said slavery was okay and women were the property of men.
Well, also, he apparently doesn't know anything about the Greeks or the Romans or...
Well, yeah, obviously.
Lots of other societies where people had plenty of sex.
You know, so, including gay sex.
Including gay sex.
You know, but yeah, so this is wisdom of millennia. Very important.
Tradition, culture, and setting in motion what we have. It's not the contraception. That's it. Everybody thinks this is about contraception. What this court case said was young people have the right to engage in sex outside of marriage. Society never gave young people that right. Functioning societies don't do that. They stop it. They punish it. They corral people. They shame them. They do whatever. The institution for the expression of sexuality is marriage. And all societies always shepherded young people there. What the Supreme Court said was, forget that shepherding. You can't block that. That's not to be done.
It's smoking gun.
And there it is. He just literally said, it's not about contraception, which means it's not about abortion either. It's about young people having sex. We don't want them to have sex. You may not have sex if you're not married. And if you're married, you're not allowed to have sex unless it's for procreation.
Well, we don't like big government unless it's big government in your underwear.
Exactly.
They always want a bigger government in your underwear. They always want to, and people criticize this about Sarah Palin when she gave her CPAC speech. People were saying, it's funny. Sarah Palin doesn't have any problem with big government, telling people who to have sex with. But Sarah Palin has a problem with telling you what size soft drink you can have.
Yep. So there you go. That's it. It doesn't get any. It literally doesn't get any more clear than that. He literally said it's not about contraception. It's about young people having sex.
So, there's a similar thing that just happened. In the debate over in Minnesota over gay marriage, one of their big talking points has been, having a little girl say, "Oh, which parent don't I need? Is it a mommy I don't need or a daddy that I don't need?" So they say, every child has a right to a mother and a father. And I put a comment on Nam's website that said, "Oh, really? So you believe now in the universal right of children to have parents of two opposite sexes? You know something? As a gay man, I'm absolutely behind that. I am willing to forego gay marriage for an entire generation. I will pull back on gay marriage for an entire generation if you say you're willing to stand by legislation that says no matter how much taxes it will cost, every child will have the right to two parents at least one man and at least one woman. So we are going to empty out every foster care agency. No matter how much money we have to pay to get these kids' parents, we're going to pay it. So we will never have any child again who needs to be adopted. They're all going to be adopted because we're going to put as much money as we have to. We will raise taxes as far as we have to raise taxes. We will put as much money as possible, close down every single foster care agency, and get every kid at least a mother and a father. And if kids are being raised by lesbians, we're going to pay a man that they like to help raise the child. So he doesn't have to go to work. He's going to help raise the child. We're going to make sure every child in America has at least one parent of each gender.
There will be we will pay anything to incentivize it.
Hey, whatever we have to... They say there's a right. They say every child has a right. Just like right to work legislation. They're never actually going to support a right of every person to have a job. Never. Same thing. When you say every child has a right to a mother and a father, I'm with you, buddy. Let's do it. How much money is it going to cost? Let's raise taxes and do it. But they don't care. They don't care about kids rotting in orphanages. No. And of course, they didn't approve my comment.
No.
After days, my comment is still sitting there unapproved. Languishing. For some reason, they're afraid of their readers reading me saying that. I don't know why.
Oh, yes, I do. Because they're lying hypocrites, really, is what it comes down to.
Because they have no intention of closing down the orphanages. They love orphanages. They would rather a child rot in an orphanage than have two loving gay parents.
Yep. Why have them raised in a loving environment when it's sinful?
When they could be raised in the foster care system and have a much higher percentage
of being abused,
of being in prison.
That too. So they don't really care about kids after they're born. I mean, then they don't really care about kids before they're born. Really, they just care about
sex. They don't want you to have sex.
No sex. No butt sex, no regular sex, no oral sex, no nothing. No.
The desperate fear that somebody somewhere is having a good time.
Yep. That's one of the reasons they like Jewish people. We have sex through a hole in the sheet.
They love that. Except they still think all Jewish people are going to hell, but they never say that when they're supporting Israel.
Oh God! Oh my God!
We support Israel, but we believe in a God that's going to condemn all Jews to hell. But we support Israel.
Actually, you know what? We're gonna. I had a thing I saw about Israeli apartheid, but the show's running long, so we're gonna wrap this up right now. I'm sorry you didn't get to do your Steubenville soapbox. Maybe next.
He didn't want me to.
No, I really didn't. All right, we're gonna wrap this up. This is your host, Justin, the Filthy Little Scum Rosario, saying goodnight, and this is the Fat Smooth Bastard.
The Steubenville sentence was just. Ha! I got it in there.
Yay!
It's just.
Feel free to flame him.
Just.
See you next week.
Justice was done.